And we're back, listeners. Sorry. Welcome to the Stat Geek Q&A. This is behind the steel curtain deputy editor Dave Schofield and big bro Rich. How you feeling, Rich? You still feeling as good as you were last show?
Still feeling good. Still
Still
feeling
feeling
good.
good?
Let's get some folks in here. Let them start firing away with some questions.
Yeah, well, maybe what I should do this time is actually let you talk. I did a lot of
That's all
talking
right.
last show.
Sometimes some people might find this hard to believe when they listen to this on the show, but I was actually telling students at college this week that I'm the quiet one of the family. I was the one that that didn't get sat on the front seat of the bus for being too loud.
Yeah, that's because we had the bus Nazi that you weren't allowed to speak on the bus. What kind of bus driver doesn't let you talk on the bus? Sorry.
No
yelling on the bus.
Yeah. It's your loud talk like that and our older sister's loud talk like that always landed you all in trouble. So there you go.
Yep. We're going to get to the live chat here in a minute. I do want to give an update for those of you that were live with us the last show where we were talking about the negotiations for the current collective bargaining agreement and the 4-hour meeting that happened between representatives and the league. And according to ESPN's Dan Graziano, the next step for players is they are meeting tonight to discuss what went on in that meeting with the owners, and they want to update anyone who wasn't there in the room. All 32 reps are in town. They just weren't all necessarily in the room. They're going to prepare to vote, but they don't know if they're going to vote tonight or when. So that's the latest news. With that, all this is going on at the NFL Combine. I see that, Snowman. I'll get to that in a second. All this is going on at the NFL Combine, which starts in prime time Thursday, where they're actually doing the Combine in prime time, where with the player testing. They're doing interviews and stuff now. They have their media time. Coach Tomlin doesn't speak at the Combine, but Kevin Colbert does. Coach Tomlin did his talking last week. And Kevin Colbert even referred to that when some people were asking him about that situation. He said, Coach Tomlin said all he needed to say about the situation in his interview last week. And we're going to leave it at that. So we're going to dive here into Kevin Colbert's some of the stuff that he said. I'm going to bring up a couple things real quick. Kyle Anderson wants to know, do we really need running back help? Because we have young guys that can contribute, Snell and Connor, two-handed monsters, Samuel's a White helping out. We have talked about this in the past because I'm going to bring up Snowman's super chat question. He threw $5 into the tip jar. Thank you, Snowman. He says, when are you going to have a special guest like Chris Carter? Chris Carter is friends with Jeff Hartman, so Jeff's got to set up whenever he can get CC to do another show with him. We had a special guest a couple weeks ago.
Man.
Yeah, wrong. Chris Carter of DK Pittsburgh Sports.
I'm just kidding.
Who used to write for our website before he got taken on there. We had a special guest 2 weeks ago because we had one, Kevin Smith, aka Cliff Harris.
Cliff Harris is still a punk.
Yeah. Oh, it's a Chysap. Yeah, Chysap, I guess it is. Now you'll see it on the website. He had an article out today, by the way. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It was a really good one.
I used to think I was a special guest. Now I'm just
you used to be. You were a special guest during the bye week, and now I think you've missed one show since. And when you had some family stuff going on, and I even talked about it when you weren't here about your wife's battle with cancer, that we can now say she is
cancer-free.
She is cancer-free. So this time a year ago, you didn't even know about it. And this time now, it's already been kicked in the butt. Yep. So special guest, 2 weeks ago when we had Kevin on, we talked about the running backs. And that was something that we addressed. We would love to take the running back by committee approach. A lot of people think we need to go out and get the big stud running back. I'm happy with what we got. I think we need to fill other holes. Other holes, not goals.
Well, maybe goals too.
Yeah, maybe goals too. Yeah. If the right running back's there, do you say take them, or do you think there's too many other needs at other places there with that top pick, meaning the 49th pick overall?
It's going to be if things fell certain ways, it's going to be tempting. Just like we've had years. Typically, we end up. It's like, oh my gosh, did we really just draft another linebacker? Because that seems to be what happens here and there. But if the right guy happens to be there, and you're just like, oh, we just can't pass on this guy.
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me.
With the Steelers not having a first round pick, I think there's going to be tons of work done late Thursday night and during the day Friday, because they're going to know the 32 players that are already gone. And that's going to tell them a lot, because I mean, just think, last year there was a player that I thought, oh, he might go right in front of the Steelers, or he could maybe fall to them at 20, and he went, I think it was 4th to the Raiders with Clelin Ferrell. I thought would be a good fit with the Steelers, but it worked out great for the Steelers the way everything happened. But there's going to be people, like, honestly, I was looking for an article that I have for tomorrow with where Kevin Colbert talked about, which we're going to talk about here in a second, some of the positions that are deeper in this wide receiver is a deep one in this draft class, is that, like, Dobbins, he's ranked in like the 70s by CBS Sports. So people are like, oh, if he's there, everything is saying he's going to be there. And another thing that Kevin Colbert, reading between the lines here, that what he said, another thing that he said in a different interview today was, people talk about players shooting up people's draft boards. That doesn't happen. He says that doesn't happen. Everyone has an idea of what they think of something, and things get tweaked a little bit. But trust me, we know more from tape and from everything else than from when they're out here, running around in their underwear. He didn't say that, but that's what Robert Nolan said in the past.
I've always thought that the NFL Combine was the biggest joke out there. It is out there really just for the NFL to try to, be in the news and make a couple bucks.
Exactly. And especially now moving to prime time. So it's interesting. Thaddeus wanted to know, with the luck the Steelers had last year with Fitzpatrick, how surprised would you be if the Steelers try to get in this summer to bolster the offense for Ben? Let's just say this: it would be a pleasant surprise, but I'm not anticipating it.
I'm not either. Between the trade up in the draft last year and then the trade for Minka, I think we probably feel like we've given up some draft stock for on a couple of players, and I don't see us doing that for a little while again.
Absolutely. I still can't believe the whole Joe Hayden thing they ended up with several years ago whenever he got released. I'm like, that's not the kind of a person that the Steelers generally land. When that big name person comes out there, I mean, I've had other Steelers fans talk to me years and years ago, like, oh, the Steelers need to go out and sign this guy. I'm like, that's not their style. If there's a big name guy, generally it's not the Steelers that are going to be landing him. And then they go out and they get Joe Hayden when he's cut. There was a report that the Steelers were in the mix with the whole Minka Fitzpatrick thing, and so many people were so dismissive of that. They're like, that's not what the Steelers do. That's not how they operate. That's not a very Steeler move. And they did it, and that's great. I love it. I don't know that is setting a precedence that we could expect it to happen more. But I'll be honest with you, if you gave up a lot of draft capital, especially this year, I wouldn't dip into next year's draft capital, because you don't want to do that both with your salary cap situation and your draft picks, where you're kicking the can down the road. You don't want to do it with both. So I would say, if you're giving up cap, like if you had to give up 3 picks this year to get one guy that you think is really going to fill a need and make a big difference this year, do it. I just don't know that guy's there. I don't know that the Steelers know that guy's there. So I'm for it, but I just don't know that the situation is quite right for it. What do you think? You agree with that, or?
I do. I think that's.
Yep.
It would not shock me if something happened, but I really doubt it based on what we've been doing.
Yeah. So Kyle again wants to know, would you take a speed receiver with our first pick? A lot of
No,
people were saying that. And I put that out as one of the possible mock drafts. It was the guy from Penn State.
right.
I'm going to say no because I like how the Steelers do find their receivers. Now, I don't know if it's the same since they don't have the same receivers coaches anymore. Um, but they've been able to find gems late. That's what I want to see the Steelers draft in the 6th round is
Right. We're
you know,
sitting here talking about, who the Steelers will take with their first pick because it's the second round, this and that. I'm more interested to see what we do in the late rounds because
yeah.
that's where we sometimes really find our gems and get good players for that on the cheap with those rookie contracts.
Absolutely. Darren Dalton, which he said who's second or who's I was reading it wrong. Whose second year is the most important? He's saying Benny Snell. Who do you want to see? I
It's
honestly, I think it might be Deontay Johnson, but he
is
already
isn't
had
it
such a
isn't
good
it
year
nice
already.
isn't it nice that I got three guys right off the tip of
Yeah.
my tongue that I'm excited to talk about with that, and that would be Benny Snell, Deontay Johnson, and Devin Bush.
And I'm throwing
And you're putting up a fourth. Who's the
five.
fourth?
I got five.
You just had four fingers up. Now
Yeah, I
suddenly
just
it
said
turned to
4.
five.
Now it's all of a sudden 5.
Okay,
I'm going to say Isaiah Buggs with
yeah,
with losing Hargrave.
with
Let's see what he
losing
can do.
Hargrave. Yep.
I'm going to say Ulysses Gilbert III because who knows if they're going to keep Mark Barron around with his higher deal this year, and are they really going to sign unrestricted free agent Tyler Medikevich? I think Gilbert's a guy that could really that he might be your reserve guy this year. And like I said, he's perfect for that. He was leading the Steelers in defense and on defensive in special team snaps before he got hurt.
Right.
No one had played more special team snaps than him before he got hurt. I'd like to see him step up and be like, hey, if he's going to play so much special teams, have him be your reserve guy at inside linebacker. You could throw Justin Lane into there, but he played 0 defensive snaps this year, which was the plan. When we talked about this with Jeff and Brian and I on the preview after the draft last year, we said ultimate situation for Justin Lane is to play 0 snaps on defense. And he did. And he beat out Artie Burns as a better special teams player by the end of the season because he was doing a great job as a gunner opposite of Johnny Holton, and the Steelers were doing a real good job with that. So there's a lot of rookies you could let. Yeah, I know one rookie we're not saying, and that's Sutton Smith because he didn't even make the practice squad. He was on it for a day there for a while, but and then he was one other time. But
A day for a while, you mean just for a day?
Just for a day.
Yeah, just
for one practice. My live chat jumps while I'm catching back up. Let's talk a couple things about what Kevin Colbert said today. It was frustrating because you couldn't hear the questions. You could only hear his answer.
Right.
So first 6 or 8 questions were all about Ben Roethlisberger. I did an article that had a bunch of quotes from it. He's saying we're optimistic that Ben's going to come back better than what he was. Like some people have mentioned on our live chats in the past. He hasn't taken a hit since September. His elbow was probably bothering him anyway. Now, hopefully it's repaired and stronger than ever. But he's 38. So I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Boy, wasn't it good seeing him throw a football.
Oh, I know. That was great. I mean, I didn't expect him. I'm like, oh, you'll see him through tennis balls. He's not going to throw a football until after the draft. No, man, he threw a football last weekend. It's not like he was throwing it 60 yards, but I mean, he picked up a football and threw it. So I like it. I'm optimistic. That's me. I'm glasses half full. I'm saying let's go full force and hopefully, I'm like Colbert. He did address that, it's just as likely that he never makes it back to what he was. But we're saying that we think he's going to be a better Ben Roethlisberger now. I don't know. We'll see.
I'll be happy when he shaves the beard.
Yeah.
Or at least trims it or something because, Oh, ironically. Oh, I got to bring this up real quick. Okay. So, speaking of Ben Roethlisberger and his beard. So, I guess it was last week where he was at the WVU game.
Yes.
And was there with the Mountaineer and the Tuskegee Hap, whatever. Well, I had the kids over at WVU this past Saturday for some stuff for scouts.
Oh, really?
And the guy, the the Mountaineer guy was there.
Oh, really? So you didn't see Ben, but you saw the Mountaineer guy.
I was like, did I see you? Now you're hanging out with all these Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Weren't you hanging with Ben Roethlisberger the other day?
Boy, talk about a step down, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good one. So I'm trying to think of what else he talked about. Colbert did talk about, if you want to read between the lines at all, he said that the draft was very deep at edge rusher and offensive tackle. Do you think that gives any kind of indication that the Steelers could be in the market for any of those positions?
Look, the Steelers will always be in the market for an edge rusher if the right edge rusher is there when a pick comes to them.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I mean,
that's been the Steelers for forever.
When have the Steelers not drafted an outside linebacker at some point in the draft?
Correct. So, take that as it may. Now, the offensive tackle, that I thought was intriguing. Only because we've talked about there potentially being a need there.
Yes.
The only thing you could take when he's talking edge rusher, are we, making plans that Bud Dupree won't be there? Some people might read into that, but wouldn't put it past the Steelers to mention that when that's not a direction they're going to go. But offensive tackle, I thought, was the more interesting of the two that he brought up.
Yeah, well, because you're like, well, we have Villanueva, he's getting older. We have Matt Filer as a restricted free agent, so they have to tender him. But the thing with Filer, and you have Chuksa Okorafor, you have Zach Banner, but the thing with Filer is he's better at guard. He might have to go to guard, depending on the BJ Finney situation. I would love for them to keep Finney. The question is, I think that all comes down to if you pay Dupree. If you don't pay Dupree and you cut Ramon Foster, then you should have the money to sign BJ Finney.
Right.
But if you want to sign Dupree, Finney's got to take the back burner. That's just kind of how it is. So I think,
all right,
I think this is going to shape up.
We can't have them all. It's just, wish I knew what was going on in Colbert's head right now to see how he's going to work this all out.
You can't keep them all. I'm going to bring up this question, and we're going to sprinkle in stuff from the combine as we answer questions too. This is for Dave, I'm going to say, and for Rich. What's your ideal positions at what draft spots for this upcoming draft? Do you know yours? I have a couple things I could throw out.
Throw out a couple.
A lot of people,
my ideas might be a little weird though.
Yeah, a lot of people are wanting the tight end with their top spot. They're looking at the tight end from Notre Dame, the tight end from Purdue. I want a tight end for the comp pick they get in the third round, because I think that's right around the spot where the tight end from Dayton will be available.
Right. I know you've been big on him.
Because I think you could get him and he could be good, but you don't have to use your top pick on it. And that's what I would like. That's why I'm big on him. I'm big on a tight end that you can get there that now maybe I'm crazy. Like CBS had him ranked just out of the top 100, which would be right around, which is a good question. What pick do you think the Steelers are going to get if they get that third round pick or third round comp pick? Right now I have them pegged at 103, which would be like the 7th comp pick in the round, based on over the cap stuff. So that's right around where I'm looking for there. So I like him. I'd take either the best offensive lineman or edge rusher available at that 49th spot.
At the second round.
If you have someone there who's available that you didn't expect to be there at either one of those positions, run to the podium and get them.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do. It doesn't have to be one or the other, because I'm sure, and sometimes we're like, oh, what are you doing? You had so-and-so that was available in this round and you didn't run up and get him. Would you want to know why? Because they had someone that they liked just as well, if not better, that they could get later. And that's why.
Right.
The Steelers drafted Juju Smith-Schuster in the second round because they felt that they could get Cam Sutton in the third round, and they wanted Cam Sutton more than anyone else they would have taken in that number 2 pick. So they waited and they took the best guy on the board.
Right.
It's smart.
It's kind of what we do, which makes Steeler fans' question kind of tough for me to answer, because we don't necessarily say a position. We put a group of positions and we say we want to get the best guy on board within a position of need for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of the answer I wanted to give Brian and Jeff when they asked about, or do you draft best player available or position of need? And to me, it's a hybrid. But they's like, oh, Dave's not going to really answer the question. So I gave them an answer and said, okay, best player available. But really, it's best player available at a handful of positions of need. And that position of need could change between now and the draft based on how you're muted right now, Rich.
Sorry, bump that. Sorry about that. Hey,
Mhm.
yes, it's going to change between now and the draft based on what we do with our own free agent signings.
Yes,
Who do
absolutely.
we keep? Who's not there?
Okay, no Bud Dupree, edge goes up. Bud Dupree's back. Still think you need one, but you don't have to make it your top pick. Okay,
Correct.
but you still could. You
then
still
you're maybe
could.
looking off lineman.
Yeah.
Then you might be looking
Yeah.
tackle or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's some of the stuff that Kevin Colbert talked about today. I'm trying to think of some of he would not, like I said, he would not address anything with the Rudolph situation, and that he left that up to Coach Tomlin. And where his time with ESPN last week, he was also asked about Bud Dupree and the franchise tag. In between his various interviews, he's like, top priority is signing Bud Dupree. He's not tipping their hand on whether or not they'll use the franchise tag. But one thing that he did say is like every other time we've used the franchise tag, we use that in hopes that we can sign the player to a long-term deal when they don't ever play under that tag. They don't want to do that. They want to sign them to a deal. So we'll see. It's funny because someone else mentioned the tight end from Dayton there. I brought it up on the screen before. That was typed way before I said it because I'm really far behind. Ali Arobi said UG3 is a sleeper. I agree. So people were talking about receivers. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Steelers draft a receiver. I just don't know that they're going to do it high because honestly,
I don't think they're going to do it in 2. I'm not even sure they're even going to do it in 3.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy because how many times did Steelers fans remember when they flipped out 2 years ago when the Steelers lost Ryan Shazier and didn't draft an inside linebacker?
Right.
And didn't address it. And people were like, you've got to do that. You've got to take care of it. You've got to do something about it. And they didn't. And if people, honestly, if the Steelers use their top pick on a wide receiver, so many people, and including me, are going to be like,
we have bigger needs.
Don't we have other bigger needs? But I understand if you have a receiver that you thought was that was a first round grade and he's still there in the second round, then I guess that's what they do. But I know that's going to be my knee-jerk reaction to the pick if they do something like that. I'm going to react the same way if they take a quarterback. I really am. Because I don't know that you're going to find a quarterback in round 2 that's going to help you any more this year than Ben Roethlisberger and Mason Rudolph as the backup. I don't know that where the Steelers are picking. I don't see that you're going to get anybody better than a Mason Rudolph for this year. So this is why I feel with no first round pick, this is not the year that you want to address quarterback. So, I'm not saying that Mason Rudolph is the answer, but what I'm saying is, hopefully Ben Roethlisberger plays more than a game and a half in 2020, and therefore it's not as big of a deal. So, if anyone else caught Kevin Colbert's time with the media today and you have anything you want to say about it, make sure you throw it in the live chat, and I'm going to try to catch up here. Steeler fan 74 wants to know if Zach Banner could play guard. I very much doubt that. I'm not even sure how well he'd be at right tackle because he's actually more of a left tackle. He very well could be Big Al's replacement in a couple years if Big Al, because I don't know how much more time he has left because, he's 31, which is getting up there for an awful. Look, everyone's talking about Marquise Pouncey being up there, and he's younger than Big Al, believe it or not. So, Brad said something about Minka wanting to expand his role. And I want to clarify that because some people were getting confused with that. He does. And I think that's because of his exit interview that he had with the Steelers, where it was basically last year they're saying, you know what? This is, you're coming in, no training camp. we got to roll with what we got to roll with. But now with an off season, let's start not changing his position, but using him in different places and disguising their coverage more, which I can see that. So
totally, because we didn't get to fully utilize that guy's football IQ because we were just trying to just keep him up to speed and with our system, seeing how he came in when he did. So,
yeah. Here's a good question about this. Thaddeus wants to know if the Steelers draft a quarterback, does Mason Rudolph have any trade value?
The 6th or 7th rounder.
No,
maybe.
I mean any more than Josh Dobbs did.
No,
I mean, and it honestly would probably be based more off of preseason from this year. I think the Steelers are just better off riding that train for now because I'm going to do the article now soon. I kind of waited and held it because of the stuff coming up with Myles Garrett recently. But and I know the people are like, oh, that's because you love Mason Rudolph. I'm like, just because I wanted them to draft him and thought he'd be a good pick doesn't mean that I'm not going to be critical of what he plays. But it completely depends on the narrative you want to write of whether or not Mason Rudolph had a glass half empty or glass half full season. I mean, he went 5-3, and his 3 losses were to each to the number 1 seeds from each conference, and on a short week on the road. That was his 3 losses. You can spin some various things there. You could talk about, he came back in and got the Steelers right back in that Jets game. And I still think that if he doesn't get hurt, they probably win that game and maybe make the playoffs. But I think I'm kind of happy Tennessee made the playoffs and did what they did. So hindsight's always that. I don't want to go back and change that story, if you know what I mean. When you jump in your time machine and then you change something and everything is different. The last thing we want to do is go back and change something like that where the Ravens win the World Series, win the Super Bowl, and the world ends in 2021. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
okay.
Snowman, remind everyone, hit that like button. King David says he likes linebacker, edge, tight end. If you're talking linebackers, edge rusher, I'm all for that. When it comes to inside linebacker, I don't know how high they need to go, because some people were really down on Vince Williams in an article that I wrote today. And I mean, Flip's one of those guys that he's down on Vince Williams. Pro Football Focus. And also it's funny because sometimes Flip, he likes to use them when it agrees with him, and he says they're terrible when they don't. He was the number 11 linebacker in the league this year. He was a top-ranked linebacker.
I thought Vince Williams balled out this year.
Yeah, well, because he finally got to go back to the buck. He did. And they're like, well, because Flip brought this up to me. He's like, why was he so bad and everything and ranked so poorly in 2018? I'm like, because he was playing out of position. Because they didn't address the issue with Ryan Shazier, and they were basically asking Vince Williams to cover and play the Mac role like Shazier, because who was a better pass coverage person, Vince Williams or John Bostic? Give me a big fat negatory on both of those. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I was like. So really, I got picked one that was good in pass defense.
So bad. I mean, and people are like, well, Bostic was bad. Bostic was so bad they were trying to get him off the field and have LJ Ford out there trying to guess the right thing. That's how they screwed that up against the Chargers and had Bostic out there on Keenan Allen and won them the game. So yeah, Vince Williams is finally back into the right role. He needs someone else to play the Mac so he can play the buck. We saw it this year. He was great against the run. He was great with the pass rush. He's not the guy that you want covering guys in the secondary. And hopefully you don't have to have him do that, other than just playing your like middle zone. So between that and Devin Bush, you're not looking for a starter anytime soon to jump in at middle linebacker. So that was my thing there. It's funny because Reginald says
which is why UG3 makes such sense then
exactly
as your backup guy in there.
Exactly. Reginald says this draft is deep with tight ends. This draft is actually, they're saying, is notoriously weak with tight ends. And And here's why.
There might be a lot of guys, but there's not a lot of top tier guys.
Exactly. That's what I was just ready to say. You're not
Sorry.
wrong, Reginald. It is deep with the guys you can get later. But honestly, there's some mock drafts that I've had to look at to do my articles that the Steelers had their choice of any tight end at 49. None had been drafted yet. Now I know you can only put so much stock in mock drafts. You know why I do this mock draft stuff? Jeff asked me to do it because people read it. People were into it. You can only put so much stock into it. So they have a lot of tight ends that you can get later on, but it's not like last year where you had 2 in the top 20. So that's what you don't have this year. I'm trying to see if there's anything else good in the live chat. There it is. Going to bring up Brad's. Brad, it's funny because Brad's been working on, he had this big mock, I can't remember how many rounds he did. This enormous mock draft that he did. He tried to email it to us. The file didn't save. He lost almost all of it, and he has desperately been trying to get it back to me. And so I appreciate all the work and effort that you're putting into that, Brad. He says he's sold on the 49 O-line. He says, but if Dobbins is there, he doesn't see how. I'm telling you, a lot of people are projecting Dobbins to be there because that's what it is. I don't think Dobbins is a very good pass blocker, and I don't think Dobbins is a very good pass catching running back. So that's just me. So I'm not sold on going running back in round 2 when that means one of the guys that you want to see what they're doing next year isn't going to be on the team because you're just going to have too many. I'd rather go somewhere else. But I do like that offensive line. I think the next mock draft I'm going to be doing is where the Steelers are actually taking an interior offensive lineman, which is interesting. So lots of ways the Steelers could go. So the thing is the Steelers
have lots of ways they can go. That just gives us material from now to the draft, right? Yeah. I saw one and then it skipped. My goodness, this is so frustrating. I'm not going to be able to get back to it. Can't remember who it was. Although I'm pretty sure it was from Ryan, but one he said is reaching for a position need in the draft gets you an Artie Burns. Yeah, exactly. Yep, it does.
Exactly. So I'm trying to go back to where I was because I had one I was going to try to bring up, but I didn't. I'll just have to say it. There it was. It was Ryan. He said, loved Colbert's comments on AB. For those of you that didn't know what he said about AB, he says, AB will always be part of our Pittsburgh Steeler family. He was with us for a long time, did a lot of great things. We care about him as a person. He's never playing for us again. In essence, is what he said. He's never playing for us again. Completely shut the door on ever a reunion there. But they always care about AB, the person, because of him being a part of the organization. So Mark brings up an article that Jeff Hartman had, tag Dupree and trade him for draft picks. Some people were saying that. Not a terrible idea, but you've got to clear the cap space to even tag him to trade him.
Yep.
And then he's got to agree to that trade because he's got to sign off on it because he's technically not under contract. So and like Michael said, he's like, Colbert said tackle is deep. I'm sure he knows more than any of us. So like I said, according to CBS Sports, 13 offensive tackles in the top 100. 13 tackles, 13 edge rushers. The only position that had more in the top 100 was wide receiver, had 18, and you expect that.
Yeah.
So, here's a question. Said Donald said, "Do you read Bob Labriola articles at all, Dave or Rich? He has pretty good insight on the Steelers roster moves." That's because he's employed by the Steelers. He's in the building. If I had his access, that would be really nice. I read Labriola some. I used to read, before I started Behind the Steel Curtain, I read everything he wrote. Everything. But now, just because of all the other information, I read his stuff when I can. But there's, like, I used to read his Asked and Answered religiously, but now there's so much other stuff going on. Some of those slip through the cracks for me. Do you ever read Labriola?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
I mean, if I've ever read.
Oh, really? Because, that's Steelers.com. He's the editor of Steelers.com. Lots of good stuff. Some people are like, oh, he's out of touch.
I probably have, just haven't realized.
Didn't realize that's who it was. So, But he's always in his asked and answered being
Sorry,
dealt with.
I've read articles on Behind the Steel Curtain that were written by you that I didn't figure out it was you till I got about 3/4 of the way through the article and said, "Boy, that sounds like Dave." Scroll back up. Oh, it is Dave.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. Steeler fan 74 I did finally come across his answer to the question he asked before. He wants to go O-line in round 2, tight end round 3, wide receiver in 4. Remember, the Steelers have 2 4th-round picks. They have 2. Now, we don't know that from the trade for Fitzpatrick. That's why they don't have a 5th. But they don't have a 5th because of the trade for Fitzpatrick. They gave up a 5th to get another 4th. And they gave up the other 5th they got from Jacksonville to go get Nick Vannett. But I've seen conflicting reports on whether or not the Steelers have the Dolphins' 4th-round pick or the pick that the Dolphins got from the Titans in the 4th round. So if it's the pick from the Dolphins, it will happen before the Steelers' regular 4th-round pick. Obviously, if it's the pick from the Titans, it happens after the Steelers' regular 4th-round pick. So not sure which one it is. Any day, the Steelers should be releasing the entire slate. The NFL should be releasing all the picks, because they'll announce the compensatory picks and say, here's every pick that's coming, and then we'll know. I like Brad said he'd ride if they take a receiver at 49. I like that. So you all have had a lot of good stuff in here, lots of discussion about stuff with the draft. Here's a question I'm going to ask. I'm going to skip over a lot of the comments right now because I want to see what you guys are saying right now. My question is this. Hold on, I clicked the wrong one. I wanted to say, I'll come back to that one, King David. But I wanted to say we do not need wide receivers, is what Youngin said. I agree. So that we don't need wide receivers. That would be that's a luxury pick, in my opinion. King David said you can get a good OL in the 6th. The way this draft is loaded with offensive linemen. So what I want to ask to you all is this. With it being in prime time, anyone in the live chat, are you going to watch the combine? That's what I would like to know. So, is it Rich? Do you think you're going to watch the combine? Yeah.
No, I'm not watching the combine.
Yeah.
Not watching the combine. No.
Okay.
I don't feel that I get anything else from it that we don't already have or won't be able to get in the weeks to come. No reason to sit and watch somebody do shuttle runs or do bench presses or things like that. Like,
I'm really multiple answers. I'm assuming this, of course, was to the question. Yes, yes, yes to the combine. Someone says I'll be watching highlights. That's what I usually did. Ryan says I'd rather watch paint dry. Reed says he'll try it out. For QBs and TEs on tight ends and running backs. Someone says I'm watching the combine. I'm analyzing every player. That's what Brad said.
Well, that's because Brad's writing you that long mock draft.
Yes, he is.
So
honestly, when it comes to the combine, rather than watch it all, I think if you're a college football fan, it would mean more to you watching the combine.
Right. The thing is, I'm not a college football fan. I despise college football. I don't watch it.
Yeah. I don't despise college football. College football is not as convenient for me to watch. I'm home on Sunday afternoons, being lazy anyway, and I watch pro football. Saturdays, I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
Honestly. So I follow college football. I don't watch college football. I check the scores. I don't know individual players because I look more at what teams are doing well. So
Saturdays in the fall, I've got fish to catch and deer to hunt. So that's what I do on my Saturdays instead of watching college football. So then I can relax on Sunday and watch real football.
Yeah. I've got work to do. I've got yard work to do. I got other stuff like that to do. I've got with 3 kids and responsibilities with stuff with their activities. I mean, I get so far behind anyway. And to know that I'm going to, if I had one team that I was really into, that would be easier. That would be way easier. And that's what, I've been trying to watch some of the XFL. I can't watch all the games at XFL. What's nice is that you can watch all the games because they're all nationally televised. I decided, you know what? I'm going to stick with the local team. I'm going to try to catch the DC games. They started getting trounced. I didn't even watch that one. I had other stuff.
I actually watched that game the other day. I was
they
like,
got,
oh my
they got,
God, DC looked awful.
They're good. I mean, as good as they looked the first 2 weeks at home, going to the West Coast, yeah, they look bad. A lot of people saying that they're ready to watch. You want to know the truth? I am probably not going to watch much. I might check it out just to kind of see how it looks in prime time and if I need to report on anything from it. But I'm going to be doing the Steelers preview Thursday evening. So I've got my responsibilities with the website that's going to take precedence over that.
I've always felt like I've gotten the info I've needed out of the combine, without watching it in prime time. So I don't see a need for me to change how I get that information.
Yeah. I mean, I think putting too much stock in the combine gets you drafting a player like Bud Dupree who doesn't produce for 4 years because he completely balled out at the combine. So, but now I'm like, yeah, let's keep Dupree. But that's kind of what happens with the combine. Everyone needs to put more stock in tape. I mean, you need to put more stock in to how they play on the field. And the other way to put stock in it is when we break down. This is what I do when we break down players that the Steelers draft. And let's look at their better competition. Like we looked at Deontay Johnson last year when they played bigger conference schools and not just MAC schools,
right?
And how he played in those games, and he played great in those games. So things like that. My thing is there's just so many players, and last year I found myself with doing the mock drafts and everything else, starting to fall in love with players that I hope the Steelers wouldn't take, that the Steelers would take, only to turn around and not care about them one bit because they're not a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Right.
I'd rather see who the Steelers draft and then completely dive into everything about them. That's just me. So, there was a question here that I wanted to bring up. Here we go from Donald. He said,
yep.
Landry Jones 2-0 in the XFL. Thoughts? They looked bad without him the first week. They looked bad with him for 3/4 of the first game. And then they've done pretty good since then. I'm happy for Landry Jones. I know people were down on Landry Jones. Landry Jones and his time with the Steelers was really before my time behind the steel curtain. And I had people that were like, oh, Landry Jones. Oh, he's not the answer. He was never the answer.
No,
Landry Jones
was your backup. He was your backup quarterback.
He was your bridge.
And in the time, he was there during, like a better term, prime Ben Roethlisberger years. Yeah. He did just what you needed a guy to do. He could go in and win you a game or two.
Yeah. I mean, and to go in and not lose every game that he started.
Correct.
Not like he has to win every game, but I mean, come on. He did some great stuff and did what they needed him to do. Not everyone could come in cold off the bench. See, and that's the thing. Mason Rudolph, Devlin Hodges, both played so much better coming off the bench in games they didn't start all season, in my opinion. They really did. So, and Landry Jones, I think, did so as well. Sometimes it's almost when they game plan for you, they don't do very well. But Landry Jones, I've always been pulling for Landry Jones. I love to see him do well in the XFL. Does this mean I think he's going to find his way back in the NFL? Probably not, but I like to see him doing well there. So, and hopefully Steelers fans do too. But so many people, there's so much hate towards Landry Jones. I'm like, man, that's just crazy. So, any other thing you want to bring up, Rich? Any other questions? Any other statements you want to say?
No, I was keeping an eye too, see if anything else popped in the live chat that I felt the absolute need to bring up. Was not really seeing it.
Gotcha.
So,
Reginald has a question. He says, does BTSC have a lot of sports writers? You know what you need to do, Reginald? You need to come check out Behind the Steel Curtain. You do. I mean, I don't know what you would define as a lot. We have how do I say it? The two main writers for the site are Jeff Hartman and myself as the editor and the deputy editor. Between the two of us, we probably handle about 75% of the content. But then you're getting great stuff from Tony Defio. You're getting great stuff from Brian Anthony Davis. Jeff and I are generally the only people you hear from on a daily basis.
Come on, don't forget some of the other ones. Don't forget.
I'm getting there.
Cliff Harris is still a punk.
Cliff Harris is still a punk.
Shannon White.
You get Flip throwing out his crazy stuff that, you know what? Whether you agree with him or not, he puts it out there, and he puts the time and effort into it.
I'm still his signature line on the
yes,
website.
You are.
Shannon
does a good job. We have a guy that I don't know if he wrote before and just hadn't been doing much, or if it was someone who's new. His name's Michael Beck. He's been doing a lot. You've been seeing probably almost an article from him a day recently that he's coming in. We have another person that might be coming in to do some draft stuff. And we have the fan post section of the website that I don't really get to very often, but where people that just have an account can come in and write their own articles in fan posts. And frankly, there's been some that are good enough. We put on the main page then. So if you're interested in doing anything like that, go in, get an account, make sure you're checking out the website. It's a great place to be. It's a great place to get information. Because the thing is, sometimes I actually said to Jeff, I'm like, are you really going to publish that article? Because I completely disagree with it. I'm not going to say who wrote it. Flip. No, I don't know if it was or not. I love the bust on Flip. But he busts on me too. We busted each other. But I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, we're not going to give this. We don't all want to have the same takes. You've got some guys that love Ben Roethlisberger, some guys that have never liked Ben Roethlisberger. You've got some authors that wanted, that thought Mason Rudolph wanted to see him succeed, and some people that as he took 3 snaps and they wanted Hodges. You're not getting the same story from everybody, and you kind of need that.
That's why we have the new title on the podcast, the Homer and the Hater.
Yeah, exactly. That's the new podcast that is on Sundays. Thanks for bringing that up, so I can kind of plug these things. That the Homer and the Hater, that's Jeff and Lance on Sundays. They don't see eye to eye on something. Lance and I definitely don't see eye to eye, and sometimes we go back and forth with various things on text, but we always end up laughing about it. It's just we don't have to agree. We can have strong opinions and still be big Steeler fans. So yeah, we have a lot of different writers. Lance is the only podcast hoster that does not write for the site. Rich has never written for the site, but if you really ever wanted to write something, you just got to let me know and I'll see if I can hook you up.
I know.
All right. But that takes more time. You spend your time doing this. So that's that kind of thing, but that's not for everybody. I'm hoping that what we take our time with and that we write, that you all can enjoy. So someone wanted to know, how could you never like Ben Roethlisberger? There's people out there that don't. So that's just how it is. But make sure you're checking out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com if you've never been there. There's some good stuff. And I highly encourage you to go in and sign up for an account to be able to comment on the articles, because sometimes
that's actually where you can have a lot of fun. The way you all are in our live chat commenting right now, it's actually a lot of fun to get in on the articles and get into conversations, just like some of the stuff that goes on here.
Yeah, like I had an article today that it was very simple. It was based on a conversation Jeff Hartman and I had over text. We were talking about saving salary cap space. Yeah, I got the words out. By cutting players. And he said, cut Foster, cut Chickalo, and his next cut and my next cut were not the same person. He's like, oh, come on, it's got to be something. I'm like, no, it sounds like, oh, well, that person did. I'm like, no, this person, blah, blah, blah. So I wrote the article. Didn't say which one was mine and which one was Jeff's. Put it out there for everyone today. If you haven't checked it out, go in there and vote in the poll, because some of these articles have polls like this. And it was, if you could you have to keep one, but only one. Who are you keeping next year? Mark Barron or Vance McDonald? We laid out the numbers. We laid out the production. We laid out, the depth and all that other stuff for people to do. Lots of comments and dialogue on that. I checked that article today probably 20 times of reading the different comments in order to interact with people. It's just like the live chat here. You're spot on, bro, with that.
Yep.
So lots of good stuff there. Make sure you tune in for the podcasts. You'll have Standard is the Standard tomorrow night, the preview Thursday night. Lance should be back for I Said It. I filled in for him last week, which means sometime when I'm going to be unavailable, Lance will fill in here for Stat Geek. Saturday is a burning question. I don't know who it is. For all we know, it's me. Then you got the homer and the hater.
Hold on. I'm going to interrupt a second. Ryan O'Toole's comment. He says, you guys have a lot of crackheads commenting on your Facebook post. Totally different group than you get on here. Yes, Ryan, do not go and comment on the Facebook post. That's not where you want to go. You're correct. I see a lot of ridiculousness there. That's why you got to go to Behind the Steel Curtain, sign up for an account, and comment directly on the articles on the website.
Exactly.
That's where the good conversation happens.
Yeah, and you should, because I'm pretty sure you can read the comments, just can't post them if you don't have an account.
Correct.
But it is night and day from Facebook. I don't look at the Facebook comments at all, because you're going to get trolls, you're going to get people with crazy ideas.
I think I commented on one time on Facebook, and I regretted making a comment. Finally, I just left it.
I actually commented a couple times on my articles, just because I accidentally clicked on the comments when I shared them. I used to run my own fan page, so I still post my articles to my fan page, and I commented it under my fan page, which is the Steelers Superfan Dad page, and I said, you all were going and saying all these various things. This was all addressed in the article. Why don't you actually click on it and read it? Because most of the people commenting on the Facebook articles, almost all of them, don't read the article. They just base it off the headline, and they comment and go on all these crazy things. I'm like, read the article first. It's addressed in there. I said that to someone one time, and someone actually commented back to like, that was a good idea. I did read that article, and yeah, it said this, and this. So I guess you're right. The Steelers can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Didn't say that I was the one that wrote it, but still, it was the whole idea. So lots of stuff there. Yeah, don't use the Facebook page to see what articles you want. And now, not every article from the website goes on the Facebook page. So if you want all the articles, go to the webpage. So we want to thank you all for joining us tonight. Lots of good stuff, lots of stuff in the live chat. We talked a little bit about Colbert's stuff from the combine, but we really focused on a lot of the stuff you guys had to say. So make sure, if nothing else, you are liking the video, giving a good rating of the podcast, and subscribing to the channel. Any parting words, bro?
No, just thanks everybody for your participation. That's what makes this a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you all for the live chat and just the overall commentary. We appreciate it so much. So we will see you again next week. So tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. Thanks for geeking out with us.